Joey Shiner with my partners, Joe Landy Pavlon and Joe Schriedman. So first, we're going to do some sleepers and busts, and we're going to start with quarterback. What do you guys think will be maybe sleeper quarterbacks this year?
Bucks won 9 games last year, and this year I believe they're going to the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. Jameis Winston is a very strong quarterback, and he's got what it takes. We've seen how he performed in his college years. It will be impressive.
I think another sleeper at quarterback this year could be Cam Newton of Carolina. Obviously, last year they had a lot of offensive struggles, and the defense collapsed as well, which caused them to go from the best record in the league and a Super Bowl spot to missing the playoffs altogether. But this year they drafted two explosive weapons in Curtis Samuel from Ohio State and Christian McCaffrey from Stanford. And those two put together with their weapons of Kelvin Benjamin and Devin Funchess, as well as star tight end Greg Olsen, I think Cam should have an elite season and redeem himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And don't forget his legs. He should rush for 500 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns if his offensive line is all right, which it wasn't last year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's one of the most fast quarterbacks, in the league right now. So it's great for, Carolina. It's great they're using a guy like Newton, so just keep an eye on him.
Up next, we have running backs, and I think a big sleeper here will be Todd Gurley of the St. Louis Rams. Like Cam Newton, he had a terrible year last season, but most of that was to blame on the offensive line. Although I heard reports that he did look maybe a little sluggish and out of shape, he should be rejuvenated this season, and hopefully with the addition of Sean McVay as their head coach, he was an offensive guru with the Redskins. He should be able to help Gurley blossom as an elite running back, just like the running backs that Washington has had in the past. He helped turn Rob Kelly from an undrafted free agent into a solid starting running back, as well as other running backs the Redskins have had that have been playing well since 2010.
I think Gurley's going to be a bust because he was terrible last year, and I don't think he'll get any better because the offensive line and the Rams have a new coach and still a young quarterback, Jared Goff, who hasn't proven anything yet, hasn't even won to start yet. And I still think that the Rams are going through a major rebuilding process.
Don't forget about the relocating process. It's on her way. That might be a help to the Rams organization, but they got a quarterback that just can't do the job right now.
I think a potential bust at running back could be the Giants' Paul Perkins. Some people might say he's a sleeper, but I think some people might be sleeping on him way too much, so they might try to take him in a high round, such as the 5th or 4th, or maybe even the 3rd if they're really crazy.
Not with the Giants' offensive line, I don't think so.
I think he's just too small. I think maybe some people are trying to compare him to LaShawn McCoy, but he's much smaller than McCoy, and I don't think he's going to be able to get it done on the pro level, even if he did have a good offensive line, which the Giants obviously don't. At wide receiver, I think a sleeper will be the Bucks' Deshaun Jackson. Obviously, he was great with the Redskins last year, and the Bucks have arguably an even better situation than that, as Jameis Winston has a very strong arm and other weapons such as Mike Evans and Cameron Brate to throw the ball to. So if Deshaun Jackson is left single covered, as he probably should be, because Mike Evans is a Pro Bowler on the other side, 6'5", huge receiver, Deshaun Jackson may be burning people left and right if he's single covered all year. And that would lead to a more consistent production than what we've seen in the past, because when he was with the Eagles and the Redskins, he was very inconsistent. But this year he might be able to finally put together a complete season with Jameis Winston and these other weapons in Tampa.
I'm going to go with Terrell Pryor of the Redskins because he still had 1,000 yards last year, and the Browns had 4 different quarterbacks who were all terrible. So he's with the experienced quarterback in Kirk Cousins, so I believe he will produce around 1,200 yards this year.
I agree. I think what Joe said right there is just correct, and it's going to happen this year.
Terrell Pryor has been an outstanding receiver for only a year, but it was with the Browns, so that can convince anybody that he's worth taking now that he's with a good deep ball thrower in Kirk Cousins.
Listen, Cleveland's just a team that needs to be sorry for themselves. I mean, the Browns have done nothing good for them, the team and the community around them. They're in trouble.
I think a potential huge sleeper at tight end who could potentially be the number one scorer at this position is Julius Thomas, who was recently traded from the Jacksonville Jaguars to the Miami Dolphins, because he's reuniting with his former Broncos coordinator, Adam Gase, and with Gase he succeeded very well. He scored 12 touchdowns in back-to-back seasons with Adam Gase as a very athletic and big red zone threat, and I think Ryan Tannehill, quarterback of the Dolphins, could really use one of those, as the former Dolphins tight end starting last year, Jordan Cameron, was good with the Browns but had a lot of concussions and he was never really the same player on Miami. And I think Julius Thomas will give them that athletic presence and add to their already solid receiving core.
I'm going Zach Ertz of the Eagles. We all know that Carson Wentz struggled in his rookie year, but he's only going to get better with the offseason additions of Jeffrey and Smith and Lane Johnson, the offensive lineman who was suspended for 10 games last year, comes back for 16 games. So I think Wentz will be much better this year, and I think it will help Ertz too.
All right. I think a potential bust at the tight end position will be Martellus Bennett of the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, he was good with the Patriots last year, as he had a better quarterback in Tom Brady, and he was playing alongside probably the best tight end in the league, and maybe the best ever, Rob Gronkowski, which opened up lots of space for him. But now that he is on Green Bay, obviously he still has a great quarterback in Aaron Rodgers and a good offense around him, but teams might be locking onto him more, as he will be the clear number one tight end in Green Bay, and Rodgers may have to spread the ball around to his wide receivers more because Cook will be watched.
I agree with you, because when players leave New England, they're never as good. For example, when Wes Welker left New England, he wasn't as good when he went to the Broncos. And when Danny Woodhead left, he wasn't as good when he left. And I believe LeGarrette Blount, who's signed with the Eagles, won't be as good since he left New England.
Right, and don't forget what happened to Randy Moss, too. Things didn't go well when he left.
That's true. That's a good point, Joe. For defense, obviously they don't score a lot, but they're still really important. There's a chance one of your defenses will go off for 20 points and help you with a win. I think a really good defense next year should be the Panthers. Obviously, we already talked about Cam Newton and how he added the weapons on offense, but on the defensive side they struggled a lot too, and they added some players. They added some defensive backs in the draft, and their first overall pick was Christian McCaffrey on offense, but almost all of their other picks were defense. And with their veterans coming back, they should only improve. And corners that they drafted last year, James Bradbury and Daryl Worley, should only improve as they mature, their athletic ability, they're moving into their prime, and they should be able to pick up the Panthers' scheme. And their secondary should be patched up, and their defensive line should be better.
I'm going defense to pick up the Texans. Obviously, they had the best defense last year, even without J.J. Watts. And now J.J. Watts coming back, I think their defense will be the best again this year. So
I think that a potential bust defense maybe will be the Green Bay Packers. Some people think that obviously they had an awful defense last year. Aaron Rodgers was in a lot of shootouts. They're the reason that they were blown out by Tennessee and Washington during the regular season. And I think that although they have improved their secondary by drafting corners, they always draft, they never go for the free agency splash. That's general manager of the Green Bay Packers, Ted Thompson's philosophy, and they always seem to do that in the draft. But most of their mistakes in the playoffs come from rookies who make coverage errors, or maybe they miss a tackle or something along the lines of that. So I would definitely stay away from Green Bay's defense in fantasy this year.
yeah, I don't think the way they played last year, I don't see that to be much better this year.
Right.
And obviously they're still in a tough division on offense. They'll have to face Matthew Stafford in Detroit, and Jordan Howard's an amazing running back in Chicago, and he should be able to run all over them. And don't forget Minnesota. Sam Bradford's one of the most accurate passers in the league.
Yeah, but his yards per attempt is his yards per attempt are not very high, so.
That's true, but he might be able to carve them up in short distance. Now for the kicking position, I think that the best kicker should always be on the best offense, and the potential best offense this year would be the New Orleans Saints, and their kicker is Will Lutz, a second-year player. He was rock solid last year. He beat out a group of veterans such as Nick Folk, who's been a kicker since 2005, and he was solid. He was obviously much better than fellow rookie and much higher drafted Roberto Aguayo of the Buccaneers, who struggled, but Lutz was an unknown name for a while, and he was very solid for them.
Alright.
I'm going for a kicker to go with would be Dan Bailey, the Cowboys. Because the Cowboys are always, because he only missed 2 field goals last year, and he can always make, he led in 50-yard attempts last year, so.
Alright, that's a wrap for our show. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be right back after this.